Hello, fellow listeners. Welcome to the GamePod studios along with Sagar, that's me, with Nishad, Ali, and Vishwajit. This is part 2 of Mechanics of Gaming, and in part 1, we discussed about different aspects of shooting. We also deep dived into the driving experience of a game, and today we will be discussing few more mechanics. So, the next one is combat, and combat means using all your testosterone power to you kind of
Get shit done.
And I think all of us, whatever frustrations we've ever had in our life, I think these games have been the best companion and kind of cool you down. For me it has been. If I have to start, I think I'll start on this with my favorite game in combat, and that for me that is God of War 3. I think the kind of combat that God of War 3 has, it just really makes you feel so powerful, and the kind of options that you have with the kind of weapons that you have, and it just, it does make you feel like a god. And when you're giving those punches, and it's just this, and especially with the haptic feedback on your in your controller also, it just makes you so immersed into that game. So for me it's God of War 3. What's for you, Nishad?
So for me, it's Batman Arkham Knight. There is
Vengeance.
absolutely no argument that Arkham Knight has got one of the best fighting mechanics in video games. It is an absolute treat to play. The free flow combat in the latest edition actually was, made you feel like you're Batman.
Batman?
Yeah.
IGN,
yes. So it was, I don't know, there is not much to say. It's just a really good mechanic in that.
Spider-Man also got inspired by Arkham Knight a lot.
Yeah.
The combat in Spider-Man is quite similar to Arkham Knight.
I felt that while playing actually. It had a lot more kind of parkour kind of fighting style, but it felt very heavily inspired by that.
Yeah,
Spider-Man
is quite true for Spider-Man. Batman won't be in it.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man does also come along with quite a interactive combat aspect to it. Like, I think I played it quite some time ago, but I still remember it's quite immersive that way. What about you, Vishwajit? Which is your best combat?
I think you guys already know I rave about this game all the time. It's hands down God of War, the one that came out in 2018.
Right.
So I can go on and on about why I think God of War is the best game of this generation, but just to boil it down to the core aspect, the combat aspect of it, I would say it's just the way the Leviathan Axe, which is a new weapon introduced in God of War. We are all used to Blades of Chaos, if you played the previous installments of the series. But for a studio to step away from that, go in a completely new direction, the amount of risks that they took, and something that's so rare for AAA studios. They did it, and just the axe, it just feels so heavy. Every time you hit someone, you actually feel the weight behind it. And the story coupled with the tough bosses that they have, the variety of bosses that they had, it's just something that this is my third time that I'm playing the game right now, and it's just blow me away.
Especially the boss fights as well.
The boss fights is something God of War is always known for, and the camera angle has changed. So the early God of War, it used to have a little bit of a camera at a higher level.
Yeah.
And this is over the shoulder, similar to what Last of Us does.
Correct.
So what I wanted to say is like, if you might have realized, many a times the God of War game, it gets released in March. Well, there's a story behind it. So what I read is like, it's called Ares March, and the meaning of that is the Greek of God. So that's the reason you see its game released in the month of March.
And Also, a fun fact: the previous installments were entirely in the Greek mythos, and this one is set in the Norse mythology. So, the last God of War didn't really follow that pattern. It actually came out on 20th April, also 420.
Wow, that's trivia. Should we move on to the next one?
Yep.
Worst games?
Yeah, worst games. Yeah. What
I
would
actually
be your-
don't have any worst game combat wise. I've been thinking a lot on it, but I don't know, I can't come up with it. Maybe I've only really played hack and slash type of combat games. So God of War, Devil May Cry, and I really enjoyed the combat in both. So I don't really have anything like that.
But Nisha, do you have any like really pathetic, fighting games or combat games?
So I struggled with this one too, same as y'all. I mean, I thought about GTA for a second because there is not much combat. I mean, it's just punching people, but in a way it's kind of fun too. But the absolute worst combat, I would say, is again Batman Arkham Knight, but this time it's the vehicular combat. So the combat you have when you're actually in the Batmobile. Almost everyone that reviewed this game had the same complaint, and that was with the combat sequences that you have with the Batmobile. They were way too many, and each of them was boring and too long. So while I was playing them all, okay. So while I was playing them, all I could think about is how I can skip these to move on with the story.
So the driving was good, but the combat not so much.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next category, which is Traversal, where I mean, it's the experience of going from point A to point B, because I think a major chunk of what we notice also about a game, I mean, shooting, driving, and combat is obviously a very important aspect of it, but I think the way you move into the environment of a particular game from a given point to the desired objective that you have to achieve or whatever, I feel in this in this category, for me, there are two games actually. One is Journey as a game. The simplicity of it really appealed to me, especially because of it's so seamless, and especially towards the end when you are just finishing that game, the kind of experience that it gives you, the free flowing nature of Journey is what attracted me. And secondly, I mean, it's a no-brainer that Spider-Man takes it all, and the swinging, I think they nailed it with that. But for me, Spider-Man and Journey really have nailed it in terms of traversal. I don't know, I'm guessing for you, Vishwajit, Spider-Man 3 also is a game that I think we have discussed about it quite a lot.
Yeah. So I was actually debating whether or not to pick Spider-Man, just because I knew that it would be the game that is picked by you or Nishad as well. But I thought it would be injustice to the game because of how good a job they've done with the whole traversal web swinging thing. It has fast travel option, but the only time I actually used fast travel was just to get the trophy when I was doing the game 100%. Yeah. So it's a requirement for a trophy that you have to do a fast travel 2 or 3 times, something like that. So that was the only time I used it. Other than that, every time if I had to go somewhere, I remember if my next mission was close to where I was, I actually used to do a lot of side stuff like the collecting backpacks or taking the picture of any landmark. So I actually used to do the long way around so that I could take my time with it and do the actual web swinging move, so that I could be with that character for more rather than doing the mission. So yeah, definitely Spider-Man.
I think we both have a common one over here. Nishad, you can't choose Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, I went a little back further. So this one is an old game actually. So for me, it's Just Cause 3. I started playing it quite recently, and traveling through this world is not only smooth and easy, but it is fun as hell. There are various kind of ways available, one of which is of course fast travel. But if you want to explore the world, then you have your own parachute, you have your own wingsuit, and a grappling hook, which you can deploy anytime you want. And using a combination of all these, you can go anywhere you please. So it also has the other general open world elements like cars, helicopters, planes, including a jet plane. So they let the player choose however he wants to travel, but the unique mechanics of this game, which is the parachute, wingsuit, and a grappling hook, are amazing.
Reddit used to be, at least when the game was launched, it used to be full of crazy clips from Just Cause 3 and 4. I mean, people used to put up dynamites or rockets on a cow's ass and make the cow fly away. Just the craziest things that you can come up with in that game is insane.
Exactly, and it is very they have given all the power to the player. So however he wants to play, whatever he wants to do, they can be totally creative with it. Yeah, and there is a sequence. I mean, I haven't got to it yet, but I saw some videos that there is a sequence of a nuclear missile actually being launched, and you can launch it into the moon or something. Like, it is crazy.
Yeah, Reddit also does Traversal quite well. I mean, just the amount of things that you see. So I have this fun thing that happened with me a few months back when I was playing the game. So I saw this eagle, right? It was just, I was on my way somewhere and I saw this eagle circling over it. So I was just looking at it and suddenly it actually dove towards the ground and it caught something in its talons and it flew away again. So I just shot the bird in the game and it actually, both the corpses landed at a little bit of a distance from each other. So it actually had caught a rabbit and it was basically its dinner or something. So the AI is so insane and just you get to see so many things during the traversal that you always have to keep your eyes open, otherwise you might miss out on some experience that the game throws at you.
Yeah, I think it's the environment, the way the developer utilizes the environment really well when it comes to traversal, and there's so much scope to get creative in that aspect of it. So yeah, I mean, we do have quite a lot of names in that category, but there have been certain bad ones too. And for me, I think this is one category where Vishwajit and I have a common game. For me, the worst one is Last Guardian. Even though it has the best story, and that game had quite a lot of impact on me, but the traversal in that is really bad. And I have a reason for it, because the temple, and I mean, yeah, sort of temple, well, fortress, whatever you want to call it. It was like the area was so narrow, and you were roaming around with this gigantic animal, and it was just too difficult. I don't know, was it made especially like that? Like, was it intentional? I don't know, but for me, it was really a pain in the ass to kind of get around, just to go around from point A to point B.
Actually, the entire controls of Last Guardian are just terrible. Everything just feels like a chore. Every time you have to do something, every time you have to call that fucking rat dog thing, whatever it was, Rico. Yeah. Every time you have to get his attention, get that guy to go somewhere because you are too tiny and you can't cross, make him into a bridge or whatever he had to do. Every time just getting that simplest thing just to make that thing happen used to take me around 10 to 15 minutes sometimes.
I think you end up loving Trico so much is because you end up spending too much time training him and getting him to move his ass.
No, I was just annoyed by the end of it. I mean, I liked the story, don't get me wrong, but just the they could have hired someone just to get the controls right, man.
Yeah, for me also till the end of the game, I was doing like a lot of guesswork. Like maybe this might work, maybe this might not work. For what is it for you, Nishad?
So for me, I haven't played The Last Guardian, but for me, it's Rise of the Tomb Raider. So this one actually came free with PS Plus recently, and I expected it to be like Uncharted, which is why I was really excited for it. But the interactive objects are very badly highlighted in the game, and there is no distinguishable contrast in between the elements. So, I mean, you have to dance your player character around a box or a corpse or whatever before you find that hotspot where she'll loot it. And same goes for climbing and other things where you have to use Laura's ability. So most of the time you have to determine where those interactive objects are. So half the time of mine goes in that. So I didn't like that particular. Not really. I can't say it was completely the gameplay mechanics fault, but really the animations also were not. Like in Uncharted, you see the color scheme is really well prepared, so that okay, I have to travel to this particular platform, so there's a distinguishable color to it.
Yeah.
So that is not there in this particular game. Okay, so before we wrap up, shall we play Two Truths and a Lie?
Yay!
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think Sagar already has some points on the board, so we'll see who wins this one. Now I think this one is probably easy. Probably you'll get it.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, so the first one is Lara Croft, which the game that we talked about, the character. She was originally supposed to be a South American woman named Laura Cruz. Okay, that's the first one. Second is the Sega Genesis console, which came long back, featured a version of the same Intel processor that powered the original Apple Mac computer.
Wait, say that one again.
So the Sega Genesis control, it had the same processor, the same Intel processor that actually powered the original Apple Mac computer.
Okay.
Yep. And the third one and the last one is that a Game Boy version of Tetris was the very first video game that was played in space. Okay, so shall we start with Ali first?
Go for the second one, the processor one.
Okay. Any reason or just you have an intuition?
I have an intuition.
Okay. Sagar?
For me, it's the first one that they could have probably planned to name her Cruz.
Cruz, okay. Vishnu?
I'm gonna go with the third one because the third one was the right answer last time as well. So I think Nishad would.
What is this pattern?
I'm just trying to be different, bitch.
So I'm actually happy that everyone is choosing a different answer. Okay. So are you ready?
Yep.
You?
So the lie in this was the second one. So Ali has a point on the board.
Oh, fuck.
So there is a very small lie in this one, because the Sega Genesis console did actually featured a processor that was in the original Apple Mac computer, but it was a Motorola processor, not the Intel one.
Motorola made processors.
Yes.
Yeah, Motorola was quite big, yeah.
And a fun fact about the other two items. So Lara Croft was actually supposed to be named Laura Cruz, but since the character was so close to Indiana Jones, they probably ended up getting a UK friendly name for it, so that's why they named her Croft.
Oh.
And the Game Boy version of Tetris was actually the first game which was played in space, so a Russian cosmonaut actually took it with him. And that same game was later sold at an auction for about $1,000. I mean, way back.
Okay, that's cheap considering the phones cost that much now.
Yeah.
Chalo, Then
Yeah.
let's
So
wrap this
Sagar,
up then.
Sagar, you
Yeah.
can just wrap it.
So final few words on today's episode is that I think we had some insightful sessions and discussions on the different mechanics of gaming, and there's a lot to explore actually, and we are just limited by time here and of the medium, and we wish to explore more mechanics in the future. So yeah, I think with that we can just wrap up this episode. So thank you everyone for joining.